Do sada u svojoj emisiji nisam imao prilike da ugostim psihologa. A znam da razgovor sa njima uvek preti da iz intervjua pređe u seansu i to tako da uopšte i ne primetite. Zato mi je bio veliki izazov da u ovonedeljnoj emisiji moja gošća bude doktorka primenjene psihologije, doktorka Aneta Tunariju. Ona je poreklom iz komšiluka, iz Rumunije, ali se školovala u Londonu, gde i danas radi kao profesor na Imperial College-u i Univerzitetskom College-u, na kojima predaje primenjenu psihologiju. Tokom svoje blistave karijere bila je dekan škole za psihologiju i šef katedre za psihološke intervencije na Univerzitetu Istočnog Londona. Svestan sam da je mnogima danas potreban razgovor sa nekim kao što je Aneta, ali moja ideja je da razgovaramo o onome što je njena specijalnost, a što ima veze sa biznisom. To je psihologija izvođenja, odnosno oblast koja proučava kako ljudi funkcionišu u situacijama visokog pritiska, kada je važno postići rezultat, održati fokus ili doneti kvalitetnu odluku. Upravo to je okruženje u kome se nalazi svako ko je u biznisu. O tome kako donosimo odluke pod stresom i nekim drugim pitanjima saznaćete u ovoj emisiji i uživajte.
Annette, thank you very much for first of all, for being tonight in Čadež talk, which is a very specific topic today. So, as someone who is actually teaching leaders how to stay normal, let's put it in the very blank way.
That's right, yes.
And the other side, you have, we talked also before. I opened up myself to you and told you, 7 years ago, I personally had my problems and went through some kind of burnout, which was a transformational experience. And this is what I think most of the people are going through. Some of them, and most of them, are not ready to talk about it, keeping it from themselves, and then actually going into the very difficult place. And the place where it's not so easy to come from or to escape from. And that's why I want to talk to you about that very openly and very personally. It's also for me personal questions. Thank you very much. What is, just to explain to our viewers, what is performance psychology and what is actually the topic that you are really into?
Thank you for the question. So performance psychology is the field of study interested on how do we understand the processes that underpin peak performance. The mechanics of it, the holistic approach to it, and my particular interest is the ability of awareness and presence and intention, that the presence of that in feeding deliberate practice, in feeding the motivation that I need to keep the discipline, in aligning my activities every day, my training every day, the way I approach training, the way I approach learning, the way I approach performance, do it from a place where it aligns with my values, a place which is intentional.
Very good. That's, I think, the perfect explanation for all of us and for all our viewers, because it really points out the importance of presence, the importance of mindfulness, and the importance of being ready to ask for your values and maybe for your purpose before you go into the, let's say, very external conflicts in the world we are living in. And the world we are living in is, let's say, more and more complex, and not only complex, but technology which is pushing us to the limits. I call it, or not myself, but the people who are much smarter than I am, calling it exponential gap in this what the technology now is and demanding from ourselves, and our psychological and sociological resources to deal with it. How can we manage it better? And is it actually something that you only study as a person and read about it, or you have to really practice it?
Very nice. So if I can step a little back, both the question of reaching peak performance, sustaining peak performance, and then adapting in such a way that I respond with agility to this exponential change, they both, to me, rest on the same place, is the habit of returning to oneself and begin to do what? Get a baseline, as in when is it that I'm most optimal? When am I best at for example, writing an essay, or when is my best time at reading a book and synthesizing. Knowing that level of information, where am I at my best? And then looking to understand what are the things that I know for sure about myself, what are the things that I know they give me pleasure and satisfaction. Questions like who I am, what I like doing, what I give myself permission to do, how do I dream. In other words, is the metacognition of thinking about thinking with the specific focus of I would like to learn what it's like to be me and what do I want to do with that. And it starts from that place of ownership of me and the journey that I want to
And this is basically what you're talking is taking the agency of yourself and, you know, being in the position to know yourself.
Correct.
Very well. But it is much easier to say and to read about it than to really,
yes, it is.
Let's say, clear off. For
Yes,
me,
it
it was like, you know, years and years of psychotherapy. For somebody else, it's a different approach, maybe meditation or whatever. But it is a hard way to do. That is something what I think we should be clear about.
Yes, it is. And even the way you explain it and how I explained it, I took longer to describe the layers. You summed it up. So this is one already, to me, something that I see with the students, I see with the clients, I see in research, is taking the time to slow down the thinking enough to allow experiences to reach us. Just today I was teaching on value-led optimization and looking at how we can work better with emotional content as a guide to how do I orient around the world. So it is harder, what we said, it is indeed complex, and one would say that existentially aliveness takes a lifetime. The existentialist would say it's self, it's always in becoming, that it's going to be a lifetime. But this process of taking a handle on how can I introduce a habit that allows me to feel grounded, allows me to recalibrate when I'm triggered by the environment and so on, can happen through more simple routines than one would anticipate. For instance, if you slow down just a little longer than we usually do when and when an emotion happens, it's a reaction to some perturbation to the mind or the environment. And we tend to understand it, explaining and move on. And then nothing wrong with that, and you understand it. It is the absence of the allowing it to reach and inform me and remind me that it's me that's having an emotion, not over-identify with the emotion.
If I understand you right, then we talk about, let's say, two phases. The first one, which is understanding my triggers in the right way, that I really some kind of clearing off also some kind of the past and everything which the triggers were, let's say, conducted or indignated with, and which I grew up or we grew up as a persons, and all the influence of the, you know, and sometimes also our genetic codes and our affiliations, which is contributing to that, how we react and how the neurotransmitters are working. So basically let's say, to work on that and to be aware of these triggers, let's talk about this a little bit more deeper. What are you recommending to the leaders, especially to the people who are really into the everyday stress? But I think even if you're not, you know, CEO of the company, if you're a normal person, or normal work anywhere, you are in these days, every day, in the stressful situations. So whatever you do, that's why I'm maybe not referring only to the people who are, you know, decision makers. I'm also referring to everybody, basically.
Very
so
nice.
how we should go into this first phase and being more aware of our triggers.
So if we stay with this notion of optimization, to say, I would like to approach what I do, how I show up for myself, how I engage with others, in a way that is seeking to optimize me. Not necessarily to change, but to evolve. Not necessarily to repair something, but expand and integrate. If we start from that, then one way that can catalyze this process is approach the problem differently. Isaac himself, right, said that if we approach the problem with the same thinking that caused the problem, we're not going to solve it. So my invitation here is to stay with the invitation that comes from maybe positive psychology, it's only a place, mindfulness is another place, the here and now, and ask a different question. And ask, what works well in spite of those triggers? How can I better prepare myself to my day? How can I do a intention setting in the morning that doesn't focus on what I fear or the possibility of the triggers, on the experience? Just for now, I will focus at what am I showing up with? How can I map what works well in spite of and use that to my favor? Use that to create a mindset that enables me then to look at the triggers from a fresh perspective and a more abundance perspective. If I look for it as I have a problem and this is a problem and it really hurt me before and I really want to have a mechanism to prevent it, a mechanism to interrupt it if it happens, and so on, we can do that. I'm suggesting let's step back even more and ask what works well in spite of that. Bring that into play, honor it, celebrate it, and start from that platform to look at.
I think this is the crucial moment that we are actually, because a lot of us are facing the triggers basically
Unprepared.
with I will combat the triggers, or I have a willpower to combat the triggers, and not really integrating this feeling, whatever it is and however it take us, and say, yes, this is the feeling, this is the very legitimate feeling, and I can feel it, and how can I use this feeling to transform it to something else.
Correct.
And yes, this is something which I think it is very important to do.
It's nice, and then both of us travel to that place when there is a burnout, or in a bad day you say, that sounds great, I can't gather the strength. So if we are on our knees, if you like, in that moment, quite depleted to take on the sovereign of me, to say, yes, I understand the legitimacy and I'll find a way. How do we prepare ourselves for that building of, I'm on my knees, as it were, and how do I lift up? With patience, as seen with self-compassion, to say, here's where I am, and I will focus on what platform I'd like to speak from. Well, I like to speak from a platform of abundance, a platform of self-compassion, of acceptance, even of graceful defiance. To say, I will not accept that situation, I'll do it gracefully. The more we entertain another way to look at the problem, other possibilities evolve. And when other possibilities evolve, we have more choices. Right now we have just 1, 2, 3 more choices, and then we make the choice that can reconfigure the entire sense of what is my readiness to deal with this. And in short, what I wanted to say is that healing is the relationship that I have with the thing.
Yeah. That is really a very, very nice set. There are also few basic strategies you're teaching about that also in course of your work, also on the executive MBAs, but also in your research. Let's take the look maybe for the perspective. You mentioned this, like what perspective do I take, and how do I, a little bit pull myself back and go away a little bit.
Exactly right.
Or let's say the picture from above, not telling that this is not important what I feel, but actually having in mind that it is the context which is more broader than this shallow feeling that I really have pain of. So this strategy, how would you, or what would you recommend the best way to deal with it?
Very nice. This is it. It's exactly right. So some refers to this strategy as perspective taking, but I think it can be far more than this. It could be taking on the observer role, where you physically step back, or maybe visually step back enough to have the wide perspective.
Which means very practically going out in the bathroom, or changing the space, or whatever.
Absolutely. So sometimes I ask the students to line up and step back to the end of the room, and then they realize they have a wider perspective, and indeed our retina also adjusts so we can see more. And sometimes I say, okay, close your eyes. How many doors, how many chairs? And they never noticed. So what we do is normalizing the ability to make the choice which says, I'm going to take a wider perspective, so I don't over-identify with this emotion. I'm not this emotion. I'm not my fear. I'm not my jacket. I'm not my shirt. And how do I get that? I create a perspective where I'm aware of being aware, and my body is aligned with this. And that you can do it visually, or to begin with, to get the confidence, like I do with the students, shift perspective so you can see how your retina goes, whoa,
Yeah.
I can see
Perfect.
this.
And sometimes, would you recommend, maybe sometimes I think that also the language we use with ourselves is very, very strong tool. Basically, that the language that we just even when we talk in the, when we feel something and we are in the first person, then take back and talking with ourselves in the third person, even that is a strong tool. So the language itself, what do you think about it?
Yes, it is. I completely agree. And research shows that the frequency of our own voice has the most impact on the instructions that we give to the conscious, the subconscious, the sympathetic and parasympathetic system. So when we have that self-talk to ourselves, and especially if we do it loud, what we say there matter. And it's there that we show the compassion and the graceful defiance. So it is to hold the grace and acceptance, but to say, this is now my voice, this is my instruction, and occupy that place. So I would agree very much. It's
which is again taking the agency.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's an indirect way of claiming the, existentialist would say, the freedom that we have to make a choice and the responsibility that we have to ourselves to take agency, to make a choice. And that's one way to remember that I can. To remember that I can. And that's the beginning of becoming to fall at home within oneself.
Yeah, this is very interesting. And one of my favorite books, which is called How the Emotions Are Made.
Yes.
Yes. And it's talking about the free choice and about maybe we can really not be aware that we don't have a free choice because of everything what we are conditioned with and how we make the decisions. But what we can do is being aware of not having a free choice.
Very good start, very nice start. However, we can do a little more. There is a wonderful book by Robert Sorabji that teaches at King's College. And it's a historian, he's an historian, he's looking at how we began to understand emotions and classify emotions into the 7 deadly sins, for example. So it takes us all the way back to a place when, for example, the desert monks, he speaks of the desert monks in Egypt 300 years BC, where they speak of something that we begin to recognize. There are 2 movements to emotions. Emotions are a reaction to something that happens in our mind, our body, or around us. The first movement of emotion, however, is a change, is a perturbation, it's something that arises. As you said, it could be something that our body generates. We see something and the back of our mind generates. That we cannot help. We cannot help what a perturbation arises. What we can help is how we make sense of it. And that's what we do when we label an experience, an emotion, we bring language, and that language then comes from the social construction area. It brings with it, for example, boredom is a sin, if it comes with it. The sloth is one of the deadly sins. So if we see sloth and laziness, and that's the label that makes most sense to give to my perturbation, I will have certain emotions. However, if I bring a discourse which says boredom is just the beginning of a action taking because I'm no longer happy here, we cause a different experience. So I love what you said earlier in terms of there is a social construction nature of all emotions. What we have control over it is the recognition, as you said, that when we bring a label, that label not only has to be accurate, but carries with it.
If we can, if we label it with some kind of, get into the relation with this, which is again taking the agency in the moment that we actually are choosing to get the relation with it, with this kind of feeling.
Yes,
this is, I think,
exactly right. Beautiful. It's how we connect with it. As you nicely said, how we relate to it. And that becomes easier if we go into a habit of deciding our mindset. Because that very relationship that you speak will be primed and structured by my mindset. And the mindset is a choice again. That would say, where do I want to focus my attention? because where we're focusing our attention, then everything else goes, right? So where do I want to focus my attention? I want to focus my attention from a place where I feel sovereign, where I feel able to choose. I would like to be grateful for what I have in my life. I'm going to focus on things that make me happy. That then primes what I tend to note, what I tend to see. And it enables me to have more ways of looking at things. Not to ignore pain, but to be better prepared to hear negative emotions of their messages. Each emotion carries a message from me to me.
Of course.
So if I'm better prepared, I hear better. I can integrate better.
What I think from my personal experience is that saying being better prepared, sometimes we choose to actually to interpret this as to be, against the emotion, which is actually totally in contrary. Being better prepared means accepting this kind of emotion and being able to integrate it. This is something which is
exactly right, and that's why it's important, like we said at the beginning, it's not to be problem focused. I expect to be triggered, and we'll talk about what trigger is too. I expect to be triggered because I had a panic attack and I see it happen. When that happened is to decide to let it go for a second, park it, put it there, and focus on how can I increase my readiness to engage with that. How to use that technique to engage with that and hear the message of the emotion, honor the message.
Yeah. That's very, very, very interesting. And everything what we are talking about, especially in your researching it in a scientific way, they are always the practical side of it that can actually be practiced. And the ways of that you are researching is that actually showing us it's not only that we can learn about it, we have to taste it, we have to experience it.
Oh, exactly right, exactly right. It has to be an experiential engagement that allows me to see how it's like to be me in experiencing the burnout and let's say the panic attack, and how it's like to be me choosing this other platform. The moment we see the two choices in a context of compassion, we have found our reset button.
I remember what really changed me is, and this is not coming through some kind of aha experience or overnight. It is like something which is you are building with the experiencing or the practicing. I started with the practice, it was a Professor Daniel Siegel, and it is a Wheel of Awareness, which is actually 20 minutes exercise of being aware first of your sense and then of your body and of your internal mind exchange and chattering, and then being aware just of being aware, and then to the connection, your connectionality with the others and with the global. This is 20 minutes, you can find it on the internet, and it really changes. It not changes if you do it once, but if you do it every day, it changes.
It's grounding, and it's claiming your own choice back again. And it can be done through the, let's call it intention setting exercise in the morning. That can take 3 minutes while we brush our teeth. So brushing the teeth is a routine. We can hook on that routine. And as we look at the mirror, which is good because it makes us accountable, it's to either softly talking to ourselves or saying in the mind, we could say, so come inside your body, are saying, I am grounded. You simply fall within and you note what you do. I'm brushing, my feet are on the floor. So you connect with the body. And then you can think of these 3 questions, brief questions which you can answer briefly. What do I want to achieve today? And it could be, today I want to achieve what's in my diary, or today I want to achieve a certain outcome of a meeting, the practicality of being a social person. The second question is, how do I want to feel today? And the answer could be, I want to feel content. I want to feel able to accept the panic attack. I want to feel able to go and see my friends, or I want to feel courageous. It's allowing the possibility of being not, like you say, against my boundaries, being my boundaries, and just pushing them there. And then the third question for me would be, what aspect of my personal growth I want to work on today? And it could be as simple as to practice how it's like to be grounding while I'm brushing my teeth. And you can even be the laughing, washing my hands, exactly. And then eating, and then even you can stay with that even more and return to that place of what do I know for sure about me? And you start with descriptive words like, I like my toast to be full of butter right to the edge. And I like, then you get more and more in terms of the higher order values. And that is a way of stating and claiming your place. And it has the experiential effect of bringing it back to yourself. It doesn't require red carpet or smelly sticks, but you can have all that if you want. It requires a decision to begin to do it.
And that's just for the end. What would you, in the, let's say, the 3 top messages that you would like to let's say, tell somebody who is today a young person dealing with all this complex world and getting into some kind of, let's say, entrepreneurship and all the risks that are coming with that? What would you tell them the best way to survive?
I would say seek to flourish, not only survive. Because if you survived up to now, you go to that place, you're doing well already. So in other ways, capitalize and honor exactly where you are. Know that, make an inventory of what are you about, what do you know for sure, what brought you here. Because what brought you here will not take you there in terms of the next level. So I would first do that, capitalize on what you have and set on flourishing. Then understand your baseline. Baseline is who am I, what I like, what I can do, how do I choose, when do I choose best, what brings the best out of me. Ask questions such as what comes easy to me in a stressful situation, what is hard to accept in a stressful situation. Ask those questions, provide the answers, and then you go to the 3rd stage, which is encounter the world, trial and error, more prepared. And if you fall, the strength in rising up is the strength. Mandela spoke about this beautifully after 20 so years, is judge me not by my successes, by how many times I fell and I had the strength to lift up. The strength is when I show up for myself in spite of, and I have the graceful defiance to say, here I go again. How? The baseline of surviving, right? Then it is the readiness to go into the trial and error.
So let's conclude with the resilience, with the word of being resilient is actually, and sometimes, we think, yeah, this new generations, there's too many challenges and so much, things that they have to deal with. But basically, it makes us more resilient then, right?
Yes, it does. Because when we encounter a challenge and see it as a challenge and becoming creative of how we approach it, we have the chance to conquer it. And when we conquer it, we have the validation that I know how to choose.
Thank you very much. I think it is the best conclusion that we could make of this conversation. Thank you very much. It was a very pleasure to have you here. Thank you. Tokom mog razgovora sa profesorkom Anetom Tunarijom razgovarali smo i dotakli se čuvenog Dana Sigela, jednog od osnivača neurobiologije, čoveka koji je zaista uradio mnogo kada je u pitanju istraživanje samosvesnosti. Šta je posebno? On je napravio jedan alat koji se zove točak samosvesnosti. I dovoljno je da ga primenjujete svaki dan po 20 minuta i da zaista promenite način na koji vidite sebe, ali i svet oko sebe. Ovo nije samo meditativna tehnika, već alat za organizovanje našeg unutrašnjeg sveta, misli, emocija, sećanja, čula i odnosa. U vremenu kada živimo brzo, reaktivno, umorno i pod stresom, ovo je mapa koja nas vraća sebi. Wheel of Awareness je mentalni model i vođena praksa u kojoj se svest zamišlja kao točak, ista svojstva od nekoliko delova. Rim, spoljni obruč, predstavlja sve elemente našeg iskustva, misli, emocije, telesne senzacije, čula, sećanja, odnose i okruženje. Palk ili zrak je pažnja, sposobnost da fokusiramo svest na određeni deo iskustva. Centar tačka, hub, predstavlja čistu svesnost, deo nas koji posmatra. Tokom prakse osoba pomera pažnju oko točka, od disanja preko čula, unutrašnjih telesnih signala, osjećanja, misli pa sve do polja odnosa sa drugim ljudima. Na kraju pažnja se vraća u centar točka, u stanje svesnosti koje je tiho,
mirno i povezano. I zato dr. Siegel kaže kada shvatimo da nismo sadržaj svesti, misli ili sećanja, već prostor u kome se oni pojavljuju, postajemo slobodniji i mentalno snažniji. Siegelova istraživanja su pokazala i da ljudi koji redovno rade ovu praksu imaju manje stresa i aneksioznosti, brže regulišu emocije, bolje prepoznaju svoje mentalne navike, osjećaju više saosećanja prema sebi i drugima, jačaju sposobnost koncentracije i donošenja odluka. Zato Wheel of Awareness, alat koji vraća sklad u sistem. Ovaj alat koristim evo već 3. godinu za redom. Mi nismo haos u našim mislima. Mi smo centar iz kojeg taj haos posmatramo. Točak svesnosti nas uči da pažnja nije nešto što imamo, već nešto što usmeravamo. I kada je pravilno usmerimo, menjamo kvalitet života. Za sve moje radoznalce i one koji žele da brinu o sebi, ovo je jedan od najkorisnijih alata koje možete uvesti u svoju svakodnevnicu. Jednostavan, moćan i što je najvažnije, dostupan svakome. A mi se vidimo sledeće nedelje.